Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. We air every Friday at noon, and the episodes have been transformational for me. It's been amazing to have these real conversations. I love deep conversations anyway, but there's something about spending a focused hour with somebody and the intimacy, the honesty, the transparency, the vulnerability, the insight, the wisdom, the meeting people who have overcome things, the inspiration, the real stories, and the real people, and people being real. And so that was the whole idea behind the name, The Real Recovery Show. Not that any other show is fake, but just that we just want to keep focused on the mission of being real. Because in our disease, we were trying to be anybody but ourselves and be anywhere than where we were. And we lacked that kind of clarity, which is why in recovery, honesty is so important. But just to dial back for a second, honesty and lying and secrets, this has been a main theme in my life from when I was little on. And so for decades, I have dealt with different aspects of this concept. I myself have been lied to. I've lied. I've manipulated. I lied when I didn't even realize that what I was doing was lying. Mm-hmm. Like people pleasing, or being a chameleon. I lied when I thought it was compassionate. Like not telling somebody that maybe I was not interested in them, or that what they were doing was hurting me or hurting someone else. And so it's like layers of this. And what does that have to do with recovery? It's, lying and self-deception and denial and manipulation and all that, all the different ways that dishonesty can keep us sick. We are very dishonest with ourselves about what's important and how bad things really are, or maybe they're not so bad, we think. What does it have to take for us to finally admit to our innermost self that there's a problem, right? And be willing to do something about it. Or even admit to myself that something really bothers me, that I've been telling myself, nah, it's okay. I want to believe it's fine. I want to believe I'm cool. I want to believe that it's not a big deal. I might even gaslight myself and tell myself, you know what, stop making a big deal out of things, stop exaggerating, or you need to not be so sensitive or something. And honesty is key. It's incredibly important. When I was a kid, I lived in alcoholism, and I had both of my parents were in addiction, and there was I didn't know that my dad was married 2 other times until I was, I think, 13 or something. Or 14 years old, or maybe even 15. And that's only because my half-brother came to visit us, and that's when, since he's coming to visit us to meet again his real father, that's when all of a sudden the conversation needed to happen. And I often thought, okay, my dad was a liar. My dad lied a lot. My dad made up stories all the time. He was charming, and he was a storyteller. And but I often wondered, why didn't my mom say something? It's very odd, that the adherence to the dishonesty, that the dishonesty, that the secrets, that was the most important thing, is to not talk, and in a dysfunctional environment, the rules are don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, and don't need. And so there's always some form of dishonesty going on, and pretending, lots of pretending and dismissing and gaslighting, etc. And so I was starving as a child, and I didn't even know for what. I felt really alone all the time and up in my head, and I lied to myself too. I told myself stories. I exaggerated the bad. and made myself depressed suicidally. And I exaggerated the good to try to give myself hope and to tell myself it's okay so I can cope. And, like honesty is the light, the path that takes us through all of the self-deception, all of the deception that we've interacted with, and helps us to keep focusing. It's like a beacon that brings us to our true self, to what really matters, to be able to forgive, to be able to get clarity, to be able to like transform very toxic thinking into what really is, what resonates, into like a more self-loving dialogue that's not fake, and if you, whether or not you ever grew up in an addictive or dysfunctional home, our society perpetuates lots of dishonesty too, and in the politics sometimes too, but more so like just in the media and the marketing, of whatever you have, it's not enough. Whoever you think you are, you're not doing enough, and you need this product, you need this system, you need this book, you need this program, blah 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 blah, and it says that this isn't harmful, that's not harmful, you could eat that, smoke that, take this, do this, and it's all good. There's dishonesty even in pharmaceuticals. There's dishonesty, if you look for it, you can see it everywhere. And so it's not really so much that it's just something that we deal with when we're growing up, maybe, right? But also sometimes people think that, my childhood was really great. It was smooth. It was happy. Everybody was happy. I was happy all the time, and it's like, well, was anybody really talking about their feelings? Maybe not. Was anybody really talking about what was really going on? Maybe not. Mm-hmm. Were people very focused on, what degree you're going to get and how well you did in school and all that, and what you look like, but maybe not so much what you were thinking and feeling, and was it a safe place for you to really be real and talk and be accepted, honestly, for who you are? And I feel like on a deep level, we've come so far away from that, all this separatism and whatever. And I know that it's pretty deep, but I feel like we all crave intimacy, we crave intimacy. We crave a people that are our tribe. We crave a partner that we can talk to about anything, without judgment, without being misheard or misunderstood a lot, without being given, dishonest answers or guarded secrecy. And, we want to just, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. Like I want to join. I want to have clarity, and I want to feel like I know myself, and I want to feel like I'm living my life as it is really supposed to be lived, like my life, whatever that is. And it takes vulnerability and honesty. It takes the willingness to like admit that I'm wrong a lot to be able to find out what my truth is and what the truth is. It takes the willingness to value peace of mind and clarity and sanity over drama, over excitement, over spinning fantasies. And I'll say this as well. I have healed a lot of stuff around this concept. I've gotten to a level of great honesty with myself, and I keep getting to new layers of things that I thought were, and then they weren't true for me. But I will say that the topic of honesty and lying has recently, in this past couple of years, come up with a whole new swing to it. And it made me realize that, with people in my life, that it made me realize that actually it's come up in the past 3 or 4 years, with a boyfriend that I had that lied a lot and me lying to myself and telling myself that it was okay. To having another relationship, like a more solid, focused relationship where this person lied to, and then just feeling like, you know what? Ironically, I needed to get more honest with myself that it's not okay. And when I got honest with myself that it wasn't okay, when I allowed myself to say it wasn't okay, because I was spiritualizing all the time, like, it doesn't matter, I have intuition, yada yada. Everybody's progress, not perfection. Everybody's healing. But as soon as I was honest with myself, the floodgates opened, and all the reasons why it's bothered me or triggered me or trauma or anything came up from all the way from the stuff from my childhood on. And I realized that my sense of security and what I think is safe has a lot to do with honesty. And so I'm in the process of getting like more and more clarity about, where is my real true safety and security coming from, and and where do I need to set these boundaries, and how can I see this differently so that I don't judge somebody who might be struggling with dishonesty, and at the same time take care of myself in the situation. Like an old mentor used to say, Lisa, you don't have to like a situation, but you do have to like yourself in it. And so, yeah. And so Tay-Tay's here today as well. Hi. And dishonesty and honesty are big topics for her as well. And they've come up in a myriad of ways in our own work relationship, in our friendship, in all of our relationships with each other. And so she's going to be talking too. And, we were talking on the way here, and we were saying we just want to say whatever. We want to say whatever it is that comes up to be said, because we want to be vulnerable with you guys. We want to say, hey, by the way, it's 16 years sobriety and 24 years sobriety. More gets revealed.
Yeah,
and
that onion.
And new things end up, things that we thought we were okay with because we were in denial around them, we end up realizing that if we want to move to the next level and have peace and healthier relationships, that with our bodies, with other people, that a little more work is necessary, more vulnerability, more self-honesty, more depth in it. And we want to do that because we realize that the dishonesty with ourselves and other people is the reason why we are struggling in an area, and until we're willing to be honest about our part, about our perception, about our beliefs, about our motives, about our defensiveness, about what we're really doing, about what we want, about what we're willing to do, until we're willing to be honest. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Mm-hmm. So welcome, Tay-Tay.
Thank you.
What was your experience with lying as a kid?
So I feel like I learned how to lie because I didn't want to disappoint people. Like I remember like telling a truth and being told that I was making up stories. And from then on, I felt like, well, I can make up stories that'll make you not be mad at me. That'll make you not disappointed at me. I can figure out like what you actually want to hear. And I mean, I'm young. Like I'm not even in school yet, and I'm like figuring out what I need to say so that I don't disappoint, so I don't upset, so I don't, like rock the boat, because I just never have been a confrontational person. And so,
what kind of thing would you say? Like,
I mean, it's different things. Like, I have one really good story. So I had an elementary boyfriend. I was in like third grade or something, mm-hmm. and he used to give me jewelry that he had gotten from his older sister. Mm-hmm. And so my family was used to me coming home with different jewelry or whatever. And one day at school, I'm in the parking lot of my elementary school, and I find a diamond ring in the parking lot, and I put it on my finger, and I go on like if he gave it to me. And one day we were like going like to the different classrooms, and one of the teachers saw the ring on my finger, and it was her engagement ring.
Wow.
And so she like was like, "Where'd you get this?" And I was like, "Well, blah blah gave it to me. My boyfriend gave it to me." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And so there was like a parent teacher conference and like all of this stuff. And the craziest thing happened. He said he found it in the playground.
So he lied for you.
He lied for me, and we never discussed it. We never came up with a story together. Like, it just like, for me, like, lying made more sense, and it always did. Like, it always made more sense for me to lie. The problem with that is, and you know, like a lot of times people will say things like, you know, it's hard to keep up a lie because you got to keep up the story. Sometimes it's hard to remember the truth.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you remember it as you told it, and you told it
Right.
to yourself to believe it,
And you told it
to other
over
people.
and over and over again to many different people. There was points in my life where like I had certain friends that I couldn't like let meet each other
Yeah.
because I didn't want them to like share stories. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like different things like that. And
Stressful.
yeah, it wasn't though. It's not like,
Well, to
that's
keep your
been-
friends apart.
It wasn't. I didn't mind having separate lives. Like I
Okay.
didn't mind like that's been the biggest problem for me is like lying came so naturally, like telling stories came so naturally. I mean, I am a technical writer. Like, you know, like I do write for like a living, although I write
But that's
honest.
technical.
Oh,
Yeah.
I write honestly now because, you know, I deal with medical records and all that stuff. But like writing has always been a thing. Like I always wrote when I was little. Like I wrote like a whole children's series when I was in second grade. Like I've just always been someone that can tell a story. And so like it's never been like a I feel guilty because I lied about that ring. You know, like I never felt guilty about it. Like especially because he like stood up for me in that, you know, and so I was like, well, this is
So
what I'm
you
supposed
never
to do.
felt like it was hurting you, and you never felt like it was hurting your relationships.
No.
And you never felt
Not
like it was
until I
hurting
was
your
an
health.
adult.
Yeah, but it was hurting things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there's
So I guess that's the funny part is there's all the lies, and then there's the big lie.
yeah.
The big lie says it doesn't matter that we're lying because it doesn't hurt anybody. It
right.
doesn't change anything. It gets me what I want. It protects me.
And you know, like one of the things that I like struggle with the most today. I mean, and I've said many times that I am not good at relationships. That I don't know how to like be in a relationship. I don't know how to do that. And I've also said that, you know, like I don't have a lot of good friends. Well, I recently was at church, and they were talking about how if you are unknown and
Unseen.
unseen, you're it's unheard, unseen, unknown, same thing. Yeah. If you're unheard and unseen, then you're unloved. And I thought to myself, how could I ever be known and seen or heard if I'm not telling people the truth? Like, how could I ever accomplish that? You know? And it just like hit me upside the head, because like there's this piece of me that like always wants this perfect, like honest, authentic relationship, but I'm too guarded. I'm too like, I just don't give myself the opportunity to find it because I put up all these walls, and I would rather tell you what you want to hear than what is actually going on.
And sometimes you'll say in a lie just to protect yourself. It's not really what the other person wants to hear.
True.
It's just because in the moment the truth about the situation is unbearable for you, and you just want it to say, you want to say what you want to be the truth instead.
Right.
What you want to be thought of as the truth.
Or what I want to believe is the truth, because that's a big thing
Right.
for me is like,
Right.
I believe.
Like, no way am I really like that. There's no way that this is really true.
Right. There's no way that's possible, because this is actually what I'm thinking. This is actually what I'm feeling. You know, like, and for me, yeah, there is like a lot of like that back and forth of like,
I do feel like lying is a way to keep everybody at an arm's distance. Like, I know for a fact that the two men that were in my life for a significant period of time were like chronic liars, and if you talk to them about their lying, they would laugh.
right.
They would admit it.
Yeah.
They would be honest about being dishonest.
Yeah.
But they would also say, who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, who cares?
Right.
You know? One was my dad. The other one was when I was a stripper, was the owner of the strip club the last strip club I ever worked at. And he became a really, really good friend of mine. And I valued that I was able to get really close to him because most people couldn't.
Right.
You know, so I thought that made me special, which is my own codependent, really sick thinking. And this was a long time ago. But he lied, and he came to a family thing in New York with me, my family, and my family, my aunts and uncles and cousins and whatever. Where did you find this guy? He's so fascinating. He's done so many things, and he's a professor of this, and he's been here, and blah 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 blah, and yada yada. And I just looked at them, and I was like, in that moment, I was like, do I say, don't believe anything that he's saying? Mm-hmm. Because half of it is, like, he'll mix truths in and then just fabricate the rest.
Right.
And like, it was such an awkward position I was in. Here was this person, I'm not going to, like, it was so weird. Mm-hmm. But then later I said, you know, why do you lie so much? Mm-hmm. Like, I can't even trust everything you say. I have to take with a grain of salt.
Right.
And it really bothered me. But I didn't let it, like, stop the friendship. And I wasn't really being true to myself enough, you know, because it really bothered me. I felt like, it really bothered. It was so much work. It's so much work to try to figure out what the truth is. And then you get to a place where you're like, you know what? Or I got to a place where I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter anyway. Whatever. They say this, whatever. But the truth is, I'm a Gemini. Like, I value an intimate dialogue.
Right.
I value a true connection. I value being a mermaid and meeting another mermaid and going deep, you know, or a scuba diver. Like, that matters to me. So if I'm hungry for that deep connection and I want to have an authentic conversation and the other person is not showing up for that, I'm like starving.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing to rely on in that.
Yeah.
How do you rely on a person who lies, who promises things and doesn't do them, how do you rely on that? It's very difficult to. And I ended up feeling quite alone. So that relationship, though, was a significant relationship for me, and I never got as close to him. He said, what does it matter? He goes, and he had such a judgmental idea of all the people that he lied to. He would talk bad about them. Like, you know what? Pfft, they're not worth anything to me. Like, what does it really matter? Like, he needed to feel like he was better than. And so all of this perpetuated it. And it was a fascinating experience to have that. But, you know, whether you're somebody who is lying chronically or you're somebody who's with somebody who's lying chronically, there's two to tango. You know, it takes somebody to lie to themselves and believe the person who's lying to. Mm-hmm. I know that's like a little bit of a mind fuck, but it's true. You know, I stayed and I found myself in different relationships over time where the other person's lying. And so, like I said, the topic has been a very interesting one. So, but no matter what, I truly believe that when we are dishonest with other people, we are separating ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a very selfish headspace. Yeah. You know, we're not open. We're not wanting to share. I mean, even in like recovery, to help another person, we share our experience, strength, and hope. Right. We don't make stuff up. Yeah. And we have to actually relay it in such a way that's so packed with self-honesty and transparency that the other person really gets the sense that this is a safe place for them. Mm-hmm. You know, that they could trust you. Because when people come into recovery, like, we're broken. Yeah. We're broken. We don't trust anybody. Who do you trust? How do you trust?
You don't. Especially
not when you're new.
No. No, especially other women, because we do manipulate and we do like, I mean, we are vipers out there, you
or
know,
other
like,
men. I mean,
well,
for different
true.
reasons.
For many different reasons, yeah.
You know, like, why are you hugging me? What do you want from me? Like, I remember when I first asked my first mentor to be that mentor, you know, like, she was a mentor to a lot of people, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I really loved how she shared and everything like that. And she said, and I was like, why do you want to help me? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, what's in it for you?
Yeah, like, what are you getting out of it? To like finally find people that are helping you not for something in return is also something you just don't know how to trust.
Like, they're not helping you because they're manipulating you. They're not helping you so that they get paid for it in some way back later.
Right.
They're not helping you so that they can manipulate you.
Right.
Did I say that already?
Yeah,
I guess I really mean that one.
Yeah, you do.
But they're not. They're not going to use it against you. They're not going to gossip behind your back about it. They're not going to
tell anybody.
They're not going to judge
it.
you for what you're saying. They have their own experience that they know they've done bad things in their own life and they've been sick and had things happen to them. And so they've made peace with that in their own life, and so they're a safe place to talk to you about yours. And that's why recovery is such a welcoming place, because of the honesty, because of the sincerity, you know, and you could feel it whether you believe it. When you first come to any kind of event for recovery, you might think, bull they drank like I did, bull they did drugs like I did, I'm too sick. I've done things.
Bull, they have 16 years.
Bull, they have 16 years.
Yeah.
Bull, that they even have 1 year. You know, I don't believe that person would understand me, because I've been through stuff.
Yeah.
And that person doesn't, because we clean up so well.
Yeah, we do.
So, like, I've told my story to people, and people just, like, look at me and they go, how? You don't look like that at all, is what happened to you. You look like you're, like, you know, and because we clean up well, right? So it's our stories, it's the vulnerability, because why else would we talk about all the things that happen to and by us and laugh?
Right.
I mean, it takes honesty and humility to get to a place of being able to talk about and say, yeah, so I did this. I've heard the most intimate, vulnerable stories of people at podiums talking about how, you know, they killed somebody by drunk driving, or they were molested when they were a kid, and all this stuff happened because of it, or they were in sex addiction and all this stuff happened because of that, or they drove, or they left their kids, you know, and went to a bar and their kids were like 3 or 4 years old, you know, or whatever, on and on and on, because they want to be honest with themselves so they can make peace with themselves. And they want their honesty to give permission to other people to talk about and to look at, this is a safe place. No judgment. Yeah. Like, let's look at this stuff. And if we don't have that sense of willingness and honesty and open-mindedness, we don't heal.
Right. There's another piece of it for me, too, of, you know, like I said, I've always told stories. Like, you know, growing up, I embellished and exaggerated and you know, puffed up, you know, because, you know, there's pieces of, like, not wanting to be embarrassed or not wanting to disappoint, or, you know, those kinds of things. But recently I was having a conversation with my sister, my mom, and my niece, and I thought something had happened that I had the information incorrect. And my mom actually responded, that's one of your fantasies. And it, like, hit me up the side of the head, like, no, this is what I was told. This is what I believed to be true for many years. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is what I was told. Like, right. You know, and so, like, for me, there's a piece of, like, people aren't going to believe me anyways. So I might as well just make myself look good, you know, like, because there's that history, there's that stigma, there's that, like, you know, reputation of. And so this is one of those things that's really hard to, like, get on the other side of, because, like you said, how do you trust somebody when they've been dishonest with you? Like,
it's hard.
It's hard.
It is hard. Like I was saying on the way here, like, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and they cheated on me, and worse even, I caught them, like, they didn't come clean on their own. which is interesting. I'm finding that I have that, whatever, but it doesn't matter. I think on some level I would always worry that they're not being loyal.
Right.
I think on some level I think it would take a long time. I think I would have to really understand why, and when somebody gets into recovery or they do something and they want to make an amends for it, like the amends has to have depth and weight. It has to say, not just, hey, this is what I did and it wasn't okay and I want to make up for it, but like I feel it has to have, like, this is what was going on. This is why I did what I did. Mm-hmm. And this is what's changed. Mm-hmm. And this is why it's not likely going to happen again. And I don't want it to. Like, that you don't deserve it. And in addition to it not happening again, because I want you to trust me, what can I do to make up for it? And I feel like, because an amend is a change. Mm-hmm. When you amend a document, you change the document. Mm-hmm. So making an amends is showing a change. It's not an apology. Mm-hmm. And so whenever somebody apologizes to me over and over for the same behavior, it's what it does is the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to get me to stop, to trust them and to stop worrying or to feel hope that this thing is not going to happen again. But what happens is, because it feels like Groundhog Day and you feel like you've had that conversation already and they've said I'm sorry, it's not going to happen again, that the sorry becomes less and less meaningful. And the pattern becomes what speaks louder. I remember this saying that a friend of mine used to say. It's a really powerful spiritual saying. What you are is speaking so loudly, I can hardly hear a word you're saying. And that's how I feel. Like, I feel like if somebody says a thing, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to see if it resonates, but I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they do a thing over and over and over again and they keep saying, I'm sorry, the sorry is a lie. Because they're not really sorry. They haven't really done everything in their power to make sure that doesn't happen again. They haven't done the deep dive to find out exactly why it was happening. They know in their heart of hearts it's probably going to happen, even though they want very much to believe that it won't happen again. But that's like, and they want the other person to believe that
that's just like somebody giving up drugs or alcohol. There are so many times before I actually got clean that I thought, this is the last time I'm ever going to do this.
It's the same exact thing.
It's the same thing. And
so it takes people time to trust the person.
There is this, like, wanting of things to change. And there is this wanting of things to be different and to be a different person. But there is also this, I don't know how to do this.
So the want is necessary.
Right.
But the apology is empty. Because the work hasn't been done.
Right.
And so that's why they say in recovery, wait before you make your amends.
They do say that.
Because if you don't actually have the shift in your perception, the understanding, the honest regret for harms done, the willingness to do things right, the understanding of how you may have affected the other person, the putting yourself in their shoes, until you have had another tool, a new insight, a new way of doing things, that you feel satisfied, you're going to lean into that instead of this behavior, nothing has really changed. Well, this is still the coping skill. Yeah. It's still the thing that's going to happen. And so that's why it takes a while. You're right. When somebody gets sober, there's a whole, in the Alcoholics Anonymous book, in their big book, it actually talks about that. Like, it's going to take a while for employers or friends and if even family to trust them again. And you can't, just because you're like sober now, hey, nothing to see here. Right. It's all good now. Yeah. They've seen you try to stop maybe before, or they've seen you promise before that things are going to be different. And they've hurt because they believed it. Right. And they've had their hopes up and then crashed, and their hopes up and crashed. And then many people ended up worrying about you or worrying about themselves or what's going to happen financially or anything. And so when we first get sober, we don't know, we've been in so much denial, we don't even know how we've been affected. And we also don't even know why we've done really, truly yet what we've done.
Well, same with the dishonesty.
That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing.
Yeah, you don't know why you lied about that thing.
No.
Like, and I think I've said this before on the show, and I know I say it kind of often. I go through this like little checklist nowadays before I say certain things, because I got to think to myself, is this true? Am I embellishing? Am I boasting? I've always, not always, but for the last few years, I've had this like think before you speak thing, which is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? But I've kind of gone to another level with the true, because not just is it true, but is it an embellishment? And I mean, we all know that I spent many years working and serving in the church, and like we used to talk about a concept of like pastor numbers, because like they would say in one service that something was 1,000, the next service it would be 1,300, the next service would be 1,550, like, and so like there's this thing of like like little white embellishments are not a lie. But they are, and that's something you've taught me, because like if I say, but you always do this, you're like, right. Not always.
It's true. Whenever I hear generalities, and this is something I was taught in recovery, nothing is ever all or nothing. Nothing is always, like always, everybody, all people this, all women this, all men that. This always happens.
Yeah.
It's a lie to us. And we do it and we stay in this general headspace and we don't actually get any clarity. And we could be running on some really negative thinking that way as well. So we're going to take a break here.
Okay.
And we're going to go to commercial break real quick, but we will honestly see you in a second or in a couple minutes. How long does it take? We'll see you soon. The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back. Please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and do not represent any 12-step program or should replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. Mm-hmm. And so being that I just said that, I'm going to say a couple of things. So there's some lines in some of the text in Alcoholics Anonymous and in Narcotics Anonymous that is so, I feel, so powerfully, divinely inspired. Because it really focuses on the subject of honesty and why it's crucial. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to say them. I'm going to say what the quotes are, but it's not in any way, shape, or form affiliating us with any 12-step program. That's my disclaimer. Here we go. So in the guiding principles from Narcotics Anonymous, the saying goes, honesty is a commitment to reality. Mm. Yeah. I mean, think about that. Mm-hmm. You know, because when we're spinning stories, we're telling ourselves, you know, it's not so bad, or we're telling ourselves something is worse than it is, or it's going to be different, or whatever. Like we're in denial. We're not in reality, and we don't actually know everything really is okay.
Yeah.
You know, we'll say, oh, it's all over. This is going to be horrible, etc. Or everything's great because of blah blah blah, but we're really denying and stuffing our feelings. Like it's a commitment to reality.
What's interesting about that is I recently read a quote. I think it was on Facebook, like a meme or something, that said, "If you tell a lie and you know, like, and talk about it, or if you tell the truth, it's part of your. If you do something wrong and you tell the truth, it's part of your past. If you do something wrong and lie about it, it's part of your future." And so that reality piece is the same thing as that.
How amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that like, you know, like when
if you tell the truth, if you do something wrong and you tell the truth, it's part of your past.
Right.
And you've made peace with it.
Right.
And if you do something wrong and you lie about it, it's part of your future.
Right.
That is so true.
Because you got to keep up that lie.
Not only that, but you're apt to repeat it.
Right.
And wow. And you're going to be in denial. Like oftentimes in recovery, we have to look at our own part in a situation that we think blatantly is the other person's fault. So if we're not admitting to ourselves and to another person exactly what our part is in a thing, then it'll always be somebody else's fault.
Right.
And so we're going to keep doing the same thing, expecting to have a different result, and more people will seem to do the things to us, and will not understand, like, why does this keep happening?
Yeah.
That we're the common denominator. So in the same book, in Narcotics Anonymous, in Guiding Principles, there's another one that's really, really powerful. And it says, honesty begins with not lying, but that's not where it ends. We start to recognize the difference between what's true for us and what sounds good or what we wish was true. Because oftentimes we want to, and here's the thing, we have the whole fake it till you make it, we have the affirmations, you know, I remember like the whole guidance to, you know, write positive things on a mirror, or to just tell myself I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I am talented, I'm strong, whatever like that. And a part of me was like, lies, these are all lies.
Oh yeah.
You know, this is not true. And eventually I was like, you know, I have to allow these possible truths to trigger up the things I'm really believing about myself, so that I could find out what is the truth. You know, maybe I'm beautiful, but maybe my idea of what beauty is whether or not I have cellulite or my body is perfect or something like that.
Yeah.
Etc. So, yeah. So, and then in Alcoholics Anonymous, honesty is mentioned several times as well. It is such a true focus of any 12-step program, really. But in the big book, in the section called How It Works, there's a section that says, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. With themselves. And so, because that's what it takes. I mean, to have even an aspect of like what we would consider mental illness, like we've had PTSD, we've had suicidal ideations, we've had depressiveness and anger issues, and exaggerated stories about who we think we are, and etc. I would either exaggerate my part in a situation and take too much responsibility for a situation and have shame and guilt and not be able to break free of it. Or I would exaggerate somebody else's part and minimize my part and be a victim and be afraid of people and angry and resentful. You know, and that's why the need to be honest with myself is so important. Yeah. And to be honest, I have to be willing to, and I've said this many times, to put a question mark on the end of everything I believe and be willing to say, does this really resonate? Is this really the truth? And so oftentimes it's kind of funny, I've heard this many times too, like people in Alcoholics Anonymous would think, well, maybe I'm one of the people that is unconstitutionally incapable of being honest. It's like, well, do you really believe that? And the person would say, yeah, then you're being honest right now. So that means that you're not constitutionally incapable of being honest.
Right.
Right?
Look up the word constitutionally incapable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then also in the section into action from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there was this section where they were talking about, and if you haven't read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether or not you ever want to attend an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, I highly suggest you read it. If you have any addictions with alcohol or drugs, it's very helpful and insightful. But most of the time, you go to see doctors, you go to see therapists, and you'll talk about everything that's seemingly happening to you in your life and what's seemingly happening in your body and with your health. And you want pills and you want procedures and you want people to talk to you and you want tools and you want all these things and you want these people to help you. But you won't actually tell them that you're drinking or doing drugs.
Yeah.
You won't tell them even if you're like on death's door and you're in the emergency room and they go, well, did you do any drugs? Did you drink or anything like that? Like, I need to know. And no. How are they supposed to help you? You could die lying about whatever's going on with you.
And that's actually like a thing in hospitals is they don't believe anything you say.
Right.
You know?
There's always a suspiciousness like, okay, did you take anything? No. They'll like look at you like, okay. We're going to do some blood work and probably test for that.
Yeah, I mean this is random, but like every time I go to the ER or anything like that, they always ask me if I'm pregnant, and I'm like, no, it's not possible. And they're like, well, we're going to give you a pregnancy test. And I'm like, it's literally
but
not
by law
physically possible for me to be pregnant. Like I don't have the parts. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally not possible, but they still do a pregnancy test. And I'm like, okay.
And you barely have sex with men. So
it does not happen.
Like you need a lot of things to make that happen.
Yeah, and then I'm not participating in any of them.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember one time I was in a relationship that was relatively sexless, and a doctor asked me if I was pregnant. Any chance I'm pregnant? I'm like, you have to have sex for that, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, no worries. So into the section, into action, it would say, unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. And that's why it's so powerful when one alcoholic or one drug addict or one codependent talks to another alcoholic, another drug addict, another codependent. Like, for one person to say, listen, you could be honest with me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm you. Mm-hmm. I've done what you did. I may not be in the same exact thing, but I get it, and I'm not going to use it against you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to report you to anybody. This is a safe place, and the ability to like be honest and to really like let that out.
Yeah.
And actually have a confidant who's sane, not somebody like, of course you're going to tell another drug addict while they're using drugs.
Right.
Because you want to use the drugs with them.
Right.
But to find that there's people who could possibly be immensely helpful, and to be honest with them. I was never honest with doctors.
Me neither.
No.
It's scary.
Yes, it is scary. First of all, I was afraid they would put me away, for what I was doing and what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
I was always scared of even being honest about how troubled I was. Even to this day, I get challenged with that sometimes, not wanting to admit that I'm walking through something, and I force myself to. Like, I have women I mentor, and I will tell them, like, I just walked through something, or I'll say it at an event or something, or at a podium or something, and I'll say, yeah, like, I just recently walked through this thing, or I'll talk to my friends and I'll say, I'm walking through something right now.
Yeah, I remember one time I was seeing a therapist, and at that time I was really into self-mutilation. I was very, very depressed. I was very suicidal. And she made me sign a contract saying that I wouldn't kill myself between that session and my next session, right? And I remember after that, never telling her again if I was suicidal.
Yeah.
Because I was
because by law they have to do
afraid.
something about it.
I was so afraid that like she was gonna put me somewhere that I didn't want to go, and it was just it's just an interesting thing like of like being on the other side of that now, like and like knowing that like there's like now I would say, well, I don't have a plan, I don't have means, like it's just like now I know a little bit more of like what their criteria is, but like it's just so interesting of how like we do have that little fear of like you're gonna judge my actions, and all I want is to like talk to somebody,
And so in that same section in the big book, Into Action, that it goes on and it says, we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. There has to be an opening. And that's, I feel like, what a bottom is, a coming to sanity, a desire for something. In order to bottom from drugs, alcohol, or any unhealthy behaviors, gambling, everything, I have to really get to a place of admitting to my innermost self that this is a problem I don't want.
You have to be constitutionally capable of being honest with yourself.
No. You have to be able to hit that point where you're like, you know what? I've been selling myself that this is okay, and it's not.
And selling yourself short, because like I was talking about earlier, if you're not known, how can someone really love you? Like, and isn't that what we all want? We just want to find that tribe, like you said.
We want to also know ourselves, to thine own self be true, you know. And if you're dishonest, if I'm dishonest, I'm lying to myself. And like you said, there are things that I've had to heal from and get clarity on that did not happen the way I remembered them.
Right.
And there was times when I would use the story of all the abuse that happened in my childhood and have to really did that happen that way? And get even more clarity, because I used the story of my child abuse to get attention. I used it to get a guy to feel sorry for me. You know, I my first dates with men, the whole first date was, God, I can't believe I did this. I took some serious hostages. But but I would tell them my whole life story, and if I got that oh, broken bird, you know, if I got that reaction from them, I knew they were my people. And because I had this sick idea in my mind that they would stay if they had that kind of feeling sorry for me, and I don't want that. You know, I don't ever do that anymore. In fact, when I date, I tell people what's this is what I do for a living. I run the meeting space and the recovery store or whatever like that. Oh, you know, you must be really, you know, passionate. They'll say, I'm like, well, I'm 24 years sober, and blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, and, you know, I grew up in alcoholism, you know, and I've had to heal and overcome traumas and codependency and lots of self-abandoning shame tapes. And because of all of that, this is why I'm so passionate to keep healing, to share about healing, and to create a safe space for other people to heal. And so, I guess I have an elevator pitch for dating now. But that, you just heard it. What did that take? A minute? Not a whole night. You know, and then I don't even feel comfortable going too far into details of it, because I don't want the negative focus of it all. You know, I want it to be more of you know, if you understand, you'll be my tribe, because I know that you'll know why I'm so passionate about what I do, and I'm looking for a partner that gets that. But if you're going to feel sorry for me, that's going to be all codependent goo, and I don't want to get caught up in that. Because I want to be focused on the solution.
Right.
Wow, this hour is going fast.
This hour is going really fast.
Another thing about honesty that's so incredibly powerful is that if we're not honest with ourselves, we can't really have a true relationship with a higher power.
That's what separates you from God, is one of the things I was going to say. Yeah, for sure. It totally blocks, because God is truth. In my understanding, you know, my higher power is truth. He is everything. And for me to be dishonest, I'm trying to hide from God. You know, I'm trying to be something that I'm not. And so I get separated. I move away from God, because God doesn't move away, you know?
So in order to meditate, I have to be willing to take whatever it is that I think is going on in my life that I think is bad or even good, and all the ideas of who I think I am, and all the ideas of who I think other people are. I have to be willing to wear all of it like a loose garment, let go of the results of everything, and I have to seek honestly what resonates. And the better I do at that, the deeper I go, the more connected I feel. The humility is self-honesty in right relation with God, whatever you call God, you know. But humility is right relation with other people. And humility is not thinking less of myself, but having the desire for clarity. And because the clarity, the truth really does set me free. And so whenever I spin something, I tell myself, this is bad, this is going to be bad, I'm not going to be okay, I'm not going to have what I need, I'm not worth it, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, you know, I never this, I always that, this is what I'm not, you know, whatever. God, whatever it is, I have to go, is this true? And not like, it is true, it's my truth, you know, no. Is it true? Can I really turn this idea over? You know, and so, you know, question comes up often, you know, what does it really mean to turn my will and my life over to a power of a higher power, the care of a higher power? And my will is my thinking, my thought life, and to align my will with God's will, higher power's will, the universe, love, is to want the truth and only the truth.
Yeah.
You know, the truth is the light that lights the path, that tells me, remember, what was it, like Billie Jean, Michael Jackson's music video? He's like, I think it was Billie Jean is not my love. And he was like, you would step on the things and they would light up. Is that video? It's one of the Michael Jackson music videos. You're too young, I can't do this. But like, it's one of the Michael Jackson videos where he would be like, you know, stepping on each of the white tiles and they would light up. And that's how I feel about spirituality and the path. I feel that if I'm willing to seek the light, to seek the clarity, I have to be willing to hold on to nothing.
Right.
And to be willing to say, does this resonate? Does this feel like my next right step? Honestly. Does this feel like it's true? Honestly. And in that, I get centered, I get grounded, and from that headspace, I won't be defensive, and I won't be tempted to lie. I won't be tempted to defend anything.
Yeah.
Because when we're in that inner knowing, and we're not running on a story in our head, the truth is true.
I think that
and it's very settling. And so when we're defending or we're being defensive, we are trying to convince ourselves and someone else of something. And it's not really what we're not settled. We're not knowing. And so it's only, for me, it's only when we're able to live in that kind of like, this is what's true. You know, like a man who stands for nothing can fall for anything. This is true. This was what resonates. And in this inner knowing, I'm good.
Yeah.
There's peace in that.
Yeah.
And if somebody says otherwise, I'd be like, okay, that's what you believe.
Right.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm guided. That's not what's true for me. And it's necessary for us to know what really makes us tick. It's necessary for us to find out what is our authentic yes and our no, so that we can live with healthier boundaries. It's necessary for us to find out, you know, what drives our bus and makes us react.
Yeah.
So that we are not running on fear and shame, driving our lives, creating chaos. It's necessary to be willing to be open and one script at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, be willing to face ourselves and question these things. You know, my friend always used to say, this is what happens when we're not in honesty. We live our lives telling ourselves scary stories and we believe them. And we tell ourselves scary story after scary story after scary story. We don't have enough. We're not going to have enough. They're talking about me. Blah, 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 blah. They're going to fire me. This is what's going on. That person's done better. They have more money. I'm not this. I'm going to gain the weight. Whatever. Right? But when we're willing to go, you know what? I want to hold on to only that which is true. I want to live in this self-honesty. Do I know any of these things to be true, period?
Right.
Do I really believe all of them blindly without even asking if they resonate or where I even got the idea?
Right.
Where did I get the idea? Why do I believe it? And like, there's something that's so healing in being willing to hold on to nothing that doesn't resonate, and to be willing to be honest with myself that I go, you know what, truth is blah, 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 blah. You know? I mean, there's so many examples of it. How about the times when, you know, I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel like I should be in this relationship with this person. It's just not resonating. It just doesn't feel good, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell me that they don't want to be in the relationship, and now I'm abandoned and I'm upset and unfairly treated.
Yeah.
But then I go, but Lisa, you didn't want to be in this relationship either. It wasn't resonating for you.
Right.
It's like, to live in that self-honesty is so important.
I feel like I had to, I mean, like, you know, I've been on this little weight loss journey this year. And I, until very recently, had a lot of shame and like this is my fault, you know, like, and I was in so much denial about like having any kind of food addiction, because I'm like, but I'm not someone that sits there and eats all day, or like, you know, like that,
or goes through these huge binges or throws up or anything.
Yeah, that's not what I do.
Right.
And then like there was a moment of like clarity where it was like, yeah, but not everybody is a homeless drunk.
Right.
You know,
right,
not everybody sticks a needle in their arm.
I'm not an alcoholic. I don't live under a bridge.
Right. Not, you know, and like, and so like there's also this piece of like trying to save face, and you know, like, I'm one of those people that gets defensive when someone's accusing me of something that I don't believe is true,
or want to believe
it, something that I don't believe is true, whether I want to believe it or you know, whatever. It's something that I don't believe is true. I get defensive, and but that there's a piece of like, I'm just trying to save face. I'm just trying to not be guilty. I'm just trying to be, you know, be who I believe is true, you know? And so like, But you know what I've learned? That when you're defensive, something just hit pay dirt. Because you wouldn't be defensive about it if you really were at peace with it. And True,
you knew.
Yeah.
If it was your truth, then you'd be like, okay, well, people don't, you know. Like if somebody said to me, you know, that's bullshit, Lisa, you could get tan, I would be like, well, that's cute that you want to think that.
Right.
But you might want to do some research, because people like me don't get tan.
Right.
You can't
just
get
turn
tan.
red.
We don't have the melanin for it. But if somebody was to say to me something that maybe I'm not 100% settled about, you know, that you could be making more money than you did, or whatever, I might be like, no, you don't understand. I have this or something, you know, or show me what you mean. But yeah, like, who are you trying to convince?
Right.
If you're defensive and it has a lot of energy to it, you know, and also not just necessarily that it hit pay dirt, but also that if we're not actually solid in what really resonates for us, we feel threatened by somebody who feels sure about what they're saying, and it becomes open for debate, and we don't necessarily want it to be. Right. You know, so there's different reasons why we're defensive, but in all of that, there's an element, I feel, of denial or dishonesty or something like, no, you can't see me that way. I put a lot of effort into making sure that you see me a certain way, and evidently I'm not doing the job, and so
evidently you don't believe my lie, which is not possible because people lie for me.
Right. So
yeah.
Wow, we have so much else we could have shared on this.
We might have to do another episode in the future.
Maybe. But okay, so you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Amazon Fire TV. You can listen to us on the PHLV radio app, or you can get our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can go to themeetingspace.com, and you can see all of the episodes listed under the Real Recovery Show. We post everything every week, and you can catch us on YouTube. Specifically, like the shows, share the shows. We'd appreciate it. And if you're looking to maybe be on a future episode, definitely contact us through the intake form or the contact form on themeetingspace.com.
Yeah.
And thank you again for joining us today on The Real Recovery Show. We'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsor and gracious host, PHLV Radio here in Las Vegas. See you next week.